Yes, the chase is on, and then Mighty Queen Scout says, uh-oh, and just like that, when Mighty Queen Scout says, uh-oh, and then Mighty Queen Scout says, no, 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 then Mighty Queen Scout says, no, I think I blown my tail, and ow, my ear, and then Fuchsia blushes, yeah, and then Mighty Queen Scout says, what are you laughing at? Then Fuchsia blushes, nothing, and then Libby Lights Bright says, Wally, we did it, we lost her, and then Wally says, yeah, let's go get that tiara, and then Mighty Queen Scout says, stop right there, and just like that, when Mighty Queen Scout says, stop right there, and then Wally says, uh-oh, and then Mighty Queen Scout says, that's my tiara. Since I have the tiara, it has the meteor crystal on there, and since I have the tiara, I still want to be the Mighty Queen of the forest. Right, bandmates? Then two of her bandmates says, and then Wally says, I'll try ask her. And then Wally says, hi, Mighty Queen Scout, I'm Wally, and this is my stick. And then Mighty Queen Scout says, why is that? Then Wally says, well, we'll be okay, we have the tiara. And then Mighty Queen Scout says, shh. And then Wally says, well, that was weird. And then Mighty Queen Scout says, yes, that was weird. And just like that, when Mighty Queen Scout says, yes, that was weird. And then Libby says, I didn't know Mighty Queen Scout can hiss. The Zack the Gnome says, yeah, me too. Oh, and almost forgot, Zap, that's going on the list. And then Libby says, great. And then Libby Lights Bright says, Mighty Queen Scout, if you can ask us nicely, we'll be okay if we have the tiara back. And then Mighty Queen Scout says, no, I don't feel like it, so. And then Mighty Queen Scout says, bandmates, grab that tree and get away. And then Mighty Queen Scout says, hey, don't go without me, wait for me. And then Libby says, Wally, they got that tree out of the ground. And then Zack the Gnome says, don't worry, Libby, I'm with Wally. Then Wally says, and I'm with you, Zack, come on, let's go after them. Then Wally says, whoa. Then Wally says, whoa, they're down there, and we can't get over there. How are we gonna get them? And then Zack says, how about zipline? And then Wally says, zipline. What if we use the word zip and then line? What those words make? Then Wally says, yeah, zipline. It starts with the letter Z and this is a sound. It's a magic word, so let's make zipline. Then Zack the Gnome says, wow, how does this work? Then Wally says, you'll see, hang on. Then Zack the Gnome says, I'm flying! I'm ziplining. Then Wally says, pretty fun, huh? Look, there they are. Then Mighty Queen Scout says, uh-oh, go faster. And then Wally says, okay, Zack, get ready to grab in 3, 2, 1, grab! And then Mighty Queen Scout says, "Oh!" Then Fuchsia says, and then Wally says, "We did it! We got the tree back, and it's safe where it belongs." And then Zack the Gnome says, "Zipline, that's going on the list." Then Libby says, "Yes, nice catch, Wally. Now, let's go get that naughty cat and get Rarity's tiara back before it's too late." And then Mighty Queen Scout says, "Oh no, you don't. Mighty Queen Scout, still has that tiara, and she will." And then Wally says, "She'll what? She'll what?" And then Mighty Queen Scout says, "Well, her and her bandmates will chase you." And then Wally says, "Quick, everyone, run! She's chasing us." And then Mighty Queen Scout says, "Hey, get back here. Hold still. Hey, get back here." And then Bob Goblin says, "Hey, leave Bob Goblin alone." And then Bob Goblin says, "Wally Trollman, Wally Trollman, Wally Trollman, Wally Trollman." And then Wally says, "What's wrong, Bob Goblin?" Then Bob Goblin says, "Bob Goblin's being chased by Scout's bandmates. They got their powers too, and Bob Goblin's being chased by them." Then Wally says, "We know. She stole the tiara with a meteor crystal on there and got superpowers and become Mighty Queen of the Forest, and we gotta stop her somehow, but she's chasing us." And then Libby says, "And instead of going after her, she's after us." And then Mighty Queen Scout says, "That's what I said. How about you cool it?" Then he says, "Ah!" And then Mighty Queen Scout says, "Hey, silly old Tromans, get on back here." And then Mighty Queen Scout says, "Hey!" And then Mighty Queen Scout says, "Get back here. Come back here. Get back here. Come back here. Come here." And then Mighty Queen Scout says, "Stand still." And she yells, "Hold still so I can zap you." And then Mighty Queen Scout starts singing a song called Happy Mighty Queen Day. It has the normal version and the Nightcore version. After the song, Libby says, "Uh-oh." And then Mighty Queen Scout says, "Ha ha! Finally! Got you at last. Bandmates, let's show them." And then Libby says, "Oh no, she have us surrounded. She's gonna try and get us." And then Bob Goblin says, "I can't look." And then Mighty Queen Scout says, "Don't let them escape. Get them and breathe fire." And then Libby says, "Whoa, Wally, they're trying to breathe fire at us." Then Wally says, "Whoa, her powers are really strong." And then Libby says, "Uh-oh, and now they're trying to zap us." Then Bob Goblin says, "Ah!" And then Bob Goblin says, "Miss me by the nose." And he went, "Ugh." And then Mighty Queen Scout says, "Bandmates, let's be our dragon forms and don't let them escape." And then Libby says, and now Mighty Queen Scout and her bandmates call themselves the Scary Dragons. And they're trying to go aim for us. Wally, do you have a plan? Then Wally says, "I don't know. I can't think of a word that has the letter Z." And then Zack the Gnome says, "Well, that's it, guys. I'm changing my name once and for all. I can't think of a word that has 0, so I'm changing my name to Gary because I don't like the letter Z." Then Wally says, "Wait, Zack, what word that you just said?" "I said my name is Scary. See, it says so right here, Gary." "No, what word did you just said? 0? Yeah, does 0 start with Z? Yeah, 0. It starts with the letter Z and the Z sound." Then Mighty Queen Scout says, "Ha ha, at last. Time to freeze you, Trollmans." And then Libby says, "Hurry, Wally." Then Wally says, "Wally Kazam, Wally Kazik, let's make Scout and her bandmates' powers 0. And then Mighty Queen Scout says, "What? My powers? Where did it go?" Then Scout says, "Oh, ah!" And then Wally says, Yes, all right." And then Wally says, "Can you believe it? Scout and her bandmates lost their superpowers. The forest is safe and everyone is safe." Then Mighty Queen Scout says, and then Wally says, Scout, are you okay?" And then Scout says, "I'm sorry." And then Scout says, "I'm so sorry, Wally. I didn't mean to be the Mighty Queen. I just love that tiara. And that tiara's so sparkly and shiny. And it has crystals on it. And it's purple. And I love that tiara. I'm really sorry." And then Wally says, "It's okay, Scout. You shouldn't take other people's tiaras. Promise not to take the tiara again, okay?" And then Scout says, "Okay, I won't take the tiara again. I'm not a Mighty Queen anymore." And then Libby says, "Let's put the tiara back where it belongs." And then Fuchsia blushes, everything is safe again. Being the Mighty Queen was so exhausted, the Labrador Lady says, yeah, I know, being the Mighty Queen was so awesome, but except I like to be Labrador Lady from now on. And then Scout says, yeah, I like to be Scout for now on. And then Fuchsia says, if you don't want to be the Mighty Queen, I'll be the Mighty Queen. And then Scout says, oh, give it a break. Stop your silly dilly-dally. And then Labrador says, yeah, Fuchsia, stop your silly dilly-dallying. And then Scout says, ow, my tail. Or in this episode, Scout says, another one hot sunny day. I need to get off this miserable planet. And then Fuchsia says, don't worry, Scout. We have something that's been washed away. Then Labrador says, yeah, we found all the missing parts. And then Mighty Queen Scout says, make it quick. All this heat makes me so grumpy. Then Fuchsia Labrador says, we know. Labrador says, finish, boss. And then Fuchsia says, let us present the Mighty Queen Scout Battle Barge. And then Scout says, huh? Why didn't you use the frozen tech?